All right, well, again, welcome to Roundup. It's good to be back together again. I'm just going to take a couple of moments to introduce Bill. Most of you saw the bio that I sent out. Bill Rogers, I'd call him a Texan, but first he's an Air Force brat. His dad was a pilot in the Air Force. He was born and raised in the Air Force. He learned to play golf at age 9 because, of course, his dad was a golfer. I mean, we all know every Air Force officer is a golfer. It's just part of the DNA. He went to the University of Houston on a golf scholarship where his roommate, one of his best friends was Bruce Litsky, because they both ended up on tour together. That's pretty unusual. Two golfers out of the same school, much less roommates, both ended up on tour. Spent 15 years or so on the tour. His greatest year was 1981. 1981, he was the player of the year for the entire PGA. Won what's called the Open. Now back then, it was called the British Open, but today, it's just the Open. It is the number one oldest golf tournament in the world. And still, when an Open champion comes back, there's a lot of homage being paid to those champions, and it's a great thrill. But he was the player of the year that year, won 4 golf tournaments. Not too long after that, he has a family, and he finds out being on the tour and raising a family, that is not easy. So he retires from the tour, comes to San Antonio, where he's the club pro at the San Antonio Country Club. 15 years, maybe? 12 years. Found out it's harder to be a club pro at the San Antonio Country Club than it is being on tour. But that's another story. He's got a beautiful daughter and kids, and he's a wonderful man. Now, I've got to tell you that at age 50, maybe 51, Litsky says, Rogers, we got to go play in the senior tour. And there's a 2-man tournament coming up. That's not very often. You and I, we got to go. And they win it. So he's actually a champion on the senior tour with his best friend, Bruce Litsky, who I believe we lost Bruce 4 years ago. Well, I could go on and on about the accolades for Bill Rogers, but let me bring him up now. One of the great golfers of the old era, one of the great men I know today, Mr. Bill Rogers. Bill.
Thank you, Tex. Thank you. He's 3 minutes away from doing my whole story. I could just sit back down and we could keep talking here. Thank you, Tex. I think that the last time I was here, I made the comment after Tex made such a nice formal introduction that the older I get, certainly the better I used to be. I promise you. That's the case, but wonderful to be with you. Thank you for coming out, and I got the full story on the men's roundup, and I look out and I see plenty of women, and I'm happy about that. Tex said that y'all are getting a good group out every month for the roundup, so we're happy to see the ladies, and I thought I'd open up with a ladies' story, as a matter of fact, if that's okay, a ladies' golf story, or any of y'all golfers, any of the ladies golfers? Well, 30 years ago, I took a group of 40 men and 3 women to Scotland, and we were on a golf journey, yeah. And we ended up at, our first stay was at the Turnberry Hotel, Scotland, which is one of the open venues. In fact, I think it's my favorite open venue. But anyway, our first round was going to be at Turnberry, the Ailes, of course, the championship open venue. So anyway, I'm in charge of the pairings. I know everybody and kind of have a feel for the handicaps, so I'm in charge of getting everybody sorted out. And I do. And I think in all my trying to put this together, that it'd be good form if I began my trip with the women. So I'd be their 4th. I'd play with the women the first day, and we would be at the last group of the day. So anyway, that's how it turned out. We get started. It had been a particularly lush, rainy early summer in Scotland, and everything was just beautiful, lush. And if you've ever been to Scotland, it's a beautiful landscape, golf courses up and down, everything. But off the fairways, the native grass was waist high. I mean, it was brutally bad, and you did not want to hit your ball off the fairway. Not that you ever do, but our group, Scotty, Suzanne, and Bill, we get to the fifth hole, and Mrs. Ferguson, Scotty Ferguson, gets up, and she pulls her tee shot just straight left out in the not the prairie, the native grass. And everybody hits their ball in the fairway. So here we go. There's 10 of us, 5 players, 5 caddies. And here we are traipsing around looking for Scotty's ball. And we look, and we look, and we look extra hard. Caddies are tromping down. They're usually really good about finding golf balls. So we look, and finally it's probably 10 minutes or so, and here comes Jimmy, Scotty's caddy. Scotty looks at Jimmy and says, "Jimmy, let's forget the golf ball. Let's go out and play." And he said, "Mrs. Ferguson, I abandoned the search for the golf ball a long while ago. It's now your golf clubs I'm looking for." True story. I'm going to absolutely go down saying that was a true story. But like I said, it was a lush year in Scotland. Tex told me that I think it was last year that one of your guest speakers was a professional bass fisherman. Maybe some of you were here. Well, I understand through Tex that he brought a bunch of fishing equipment, his fishing rods, some lures, and evidently, I guess from the stage, he did some casting and was chunking lures in people's beer and, doing all kinds of little tricks and stuff with a. The reason I bring that up is I am particularly pleased tonight that Tex didn't ask me to bring my putter and do a putting exhibition or wedges to do a wedge chipping clinic, something like that. So anyway, I know he's had some interesting guests up here, but it is good to be with you, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about my life story. Tex teed me up pretty good there. But yes, I was an Air Force brat. And where I'd like to begin, and I will get to that, is that maybe some of you have read the book Halftime by Bob Buford. Anybody? Good to see some hands. Anyway, Bob Buford wrote this book, Halftime. He was born into a family that owned cable business, cable TV business in Dallas. And that probably says enough to qualify him as someone that was very successful. Well, anyway, he wrote this book, Halftime, and he felt it necessary to tell his story as it related to a football analogy, meaning he had a first half of his life which was all about success, the insatiable desire to succeed, everything that goes with that, go for the gusto, be successful at any cost, just go for it. And then in a football game, obviously following the first half is the halftime, of which he describes as a time where you go into the locker room and, you look at the first half, you make some critical assessment about good things you did well, things you did poorly, and make adjustments to enter the second half, and then get prepared for the second half. Well, his second half, as it related to his story, was about achieving significance. So his life story in the football game analogy, success to significance. And he found in that halftime period that he felt like he had certainly succeeded in this first half in reaching all his goals and way beyond anything he could have ever imagined. Not only financially successful, but from a family, kids, every aspect of his life was truly blessed. But in this halftime period, he knew that the second half, the investment had to be about being significant. What did that mean? Serving the King. be kingdom minded, eternal minded, doing something for others, being others centered, not self centered. Not that he was self centered, but he knew he had to make critical adjustments to honor the Lord and Savior that he serves. So, anyway, I read the book. I said, golly, somehow or another, I think I can make out a little bit of my story and lay it up against the football analogy. And if you'll indulge me, I'll do that. My first half was all about going for it. You know, the gift of youth, the passion to succeed, gifted with the ability to play a sport, and a family that, approved all along, supported, encouraged. Like I said, I was born into the Air Force family, Goff family, but man, they encouraged me every step along the way. And then it really wasn't, and lots of things happened in that first half. Obviously, I kind of had a career, both amateur-wise and professional-wise, that kind of progressively got better and better and better. And I was very fortunate to be able to get a golf scholarship to University of Houston. Like Tex said, met my best friend in life, Bruce Litsky. We walked in the door as freshmen with 20 other freshmen to join a group of 17 upperclassmen that made up 37 players in this golf program at the University of Houston, of which at that time was known as a golf powerhouse. And probably our second or third teams were as good as any other team in the country. So the competition was there, the ability to prove your skills, and all of us had tour aspirations. We were all driven. That was the next step. And to step one step back, I would mention that playing amateur golf, which is the very backbone of this great sport of golf that we love. But gosh, I loved it so much. I met not only Bruce, but all my lifelong friends in amateur golf. But I was fortunate to play well, have some success, and I was able to represent my country in the Walker Cup matches. It's the amateur version of the Ryder Cup matches, but that was special. Anytime you and able to represent my country with very dear and close friends. So that was special. But on to the tour, 1975, joined the tour. And I'll fast forward, kind of like I'd mentioned, a nice little steady progression. I loved the tour, loved everything about it. My wife and I didn't have kids at the time. We were living the dream, frankly. That's the modern day term of, boy, it was all good. But it was exactly where we wanted to be. We actually commented on that frequently. We had to pinch ourselves to believe we were actually doing this for a living. But no way did I see 1981 coming. And I'd had some success and felt good about where I was, but I was very content kind of just being a nice tour player, earning a living, and kind of enjoying the successes that, having a nice little career brought. No way did I see 1981 coming. In the early summer 1981, the U.S. Open was played at a place called Merion in Philadelphia. And I don't know, there's some folks my age anyway that can remember. It was played at Merion, but David Graham was the champion, the U.S. Open champion that year. I finished second to him. So I was just beaming with confidence. A month later, we're at the British Open at Royal St. George's in England, and I had the week of my life, played beautifully and held my composure, played with great poise, and, hoisted the claret jug. For those of you that follow golf, you know what the claret jug is. So anyway, as my life knew it, that was forever a thing of the past. My life changed as quickly as I held out that last putt. And with that came new obligations, new commitments. My whole world in front of me changed. But I was all in. Man, I love the adoration, the everything that came with it. Certainly the almighty dollar and the opportunity to go for that, man, I was all in love with the almighty dollar. And I had an agent that absolutely could develop any and every kind of opportunity around the world to chase that almighty dollar. And I did it, and I went for it, and didn't have any hesitancy about it. In those days, not maybe so different today, but the Open champion is really considered the world's champion. It was in 1981. And to some degree, I almost felt obligated, although they were paying me, but felt obligated to carry this new treasure that I own around the world and to show off the fact that I was the 81 Open champion. But anyway, from 1975 to 1981, 6 pretty quick years to get to the very top, enjoying everything that came with that. But, I would have to comment in kind of cliche terms. I was fat and happy, very content. Somewhere down the line, probably 3 or 4 years later, I became very complacent with my skills, didn't work at it, had lost a little bit of the fire and the desire to be, continue to pay the price to be great, or not even great, to be good enough to play at a high level. And that just continued to wane. I frankly, kind of a modern day term would be that I burned out. I really did. I was tired. I had a young family coming along, which is a game changer unto itself. But I think God began to give me a little headbutt kind of in the mid-1980s. And about 1986, I could really see the end game out there. 1988, the end of that season, I walked away from competitive golf. That's 7 pretty quick years that I'm here and then all the way at the bottom again. Never had a regret about leaving the tour. My wife did. She loved it, and she was good at it. She was a great professional golfer's wife. She excelled at it, and I think to this day she would say, boy, I wish we could have hung in there for a little bit longer. But it was time to go home. Like I said, never regretted it. And back to my halftime story, this is when I entered halftime. And I got still for a little while between 1988 and on into 1989. I had a lot of time to consider what's going to happen next. I know some things that I wanted to avoid from what happened in the first go-round, that first half. But what's going to happen in this second life? That book came into light. I knew that I wanted to have a significance to my life more than just serving myself and being in a really, frankly, an unreality world where it is all about me. It is all about getting there, and it's a very selfish endeavor, actually. Now, not for everybody, but as I was making my way, that's how it was for me. I was very intense, strung up tight, and I didn't branch out much, and it wasn't much of a giver. Felt like I was a taker. But in this halftime, back to that, I knew I had to make some critical adjustments because our young family, we had moved to San Antonio. My wife was insistent about us beginning to attend church. I had some incredibly important people. God's always timely. He always shows up, and at maybe the most vulnerable times, he's always timely. And this is when he ushered in many important people in my life. People that discipled me, walked alongside me, taught me, fellowshiped with me, and began to draw out kind of a new vision for what this next half was going to look like. So I really attribute important people, not that there weren't plenty of people along the way in the first half, but this was a new direction for me. Interesting, in 1976, my second year on tour, I was encouraged as a young tour player, my second year on tour, by some gentlemen that were kind of the cornerstone of the tour, what we call the tour Bible study. It met every Tuesday night on the tour, and men of faith, or those that were seekers, or those that had just wanted to continue their faith journey, would show up on Tuesday nights, and sometimes speakers, but would, kind of get in the Word lessons. And but their strong suit was they would like to invite newcomers to the fellowship, to the Tuesday night. In Tallahassee, Florida, in 1976, they invited me to come, and I showed up. At night, I met the Lord, heard the good news of forgiveness, of peace and joy, for hope, and accepted that Jesus Christ into my heart. I walked out into the parking lot, held my hands up, and said, Lord, if you'll take this mess of a life, I'll give it to you. And things weren't all that awkward then, really, but I did feel a strong sense that the Lord was moving in my life. So anyway, very much a defining moment, but the reason I backtrack to mention that, I was on fire for the Lord for 2 weeks. I had certainly new desires as I became a new believer. I was reading the Bible. Man, I cleaned up. I was a very profane talker, had a profane, foolish speaking mouth, just terrible. And amazingly, God kind of showed me a new direction. But the lure of the tour, kind of all the worldly attraction of the tour, kind of drew me back, and I wouldn't say put God on the shelf, but I was quickly back on doing things the way I'd done them before, with no intent of actually following in a faith manner God who had just reached into my life and saved me. But in this significant move at halftime, God made it very aware that not only was I going to know about Him, but I was going to know Him and grow in faith in Him. And it's been an amazing adventure, completely contrasted to the first half of my life, of which is the more I learned about living for the sake of others, being others-centered, just really diving into the words. Many of you may have heard of the Program Bible Study Fellowship. That was important in my life, where you really get in and study, intensely study the Bible. That really fed my heart and was very meaningful in this new journey. But we got our kids in church. My wife and I, Sunday school, began to fellowship with some people that walked alongside us, and in fact, began to disciple us. And past that, people that actually played the tour many years ago, we began a group we call ourselves Band of Brothers, but we began to kind of move around the world and reaching out and just loving others and showing them the teaching or professing our faith and speaking the gospel and message, and just had this new adventure that God had laid out before us. So very important and meaningful time in my life. I've done that now for, I guess, some 15 years, traveled all over the world. In fact, I think of my early Air Force days. I traveled pretty much all around the world as an Air Force brat. As a tour player, as a golfer, traveled all over the world. I often comment I traveled all over the world and saw nothing except a hotel room and the golf course. But then in this ministry, this using golf as a platform that God ushered in and gave to me, have been able to do something significant with the beautiful gift of golf and developing up. I wake up often, seeing the blessings that He's given me and my family as a result of this crazy game of golf. But in the kingdom economy, everything's worthwhile, especially if you understand it's a gift from Him. So that's been important. It's what I continue to do, what I love to do. I think one of the things that has probably been the most important thing is being able to speak life into young men and women's lives. I had a little stint at the University of Texas at San Antonio that I was involved with the golf programs, and both just had a tremendous opportunity to be able to speak in these young adults' lives. And there's nothing like it to have them come back and after they've left school and are off doing what they're doing, that you might get a call and say, we had some meaningful times together. And so that's, I know many of us do that, and it's worthwhile to be able to take advantage of those types of opportunities. So I stay tuned. Somebody asked me what I'm doing the other day, and I said, well, I think the only thing I can tell you is that I'm embarrassingly available. I seem to, wait for somebody for an invitation for golf or come a speaking engagement, what have you. But love the fact that I've been included and involved in kingdom work and ministry work using the great game of golf, and tremendous blessing to be able to come here and share my story with you. And that's there's a lot of ins and outs. I'm still very much a work in progress. Often say a lost ball in the high weeds. I'm still trying to work out of the rough, but be that as it may, it's worth the effort, and I thank God for it, and to Him alone be all the glory. So, Tex, any?
Thank you, Bill. Now, I know there's some guys and ladies that might have some questions. They may want to ask you about some event on tour they saw,
Those lights are hot.
or the Links program. I know you had some involvement with Links. Part of that Bible study on tour with the players.
Yeah, really, the Links Players group was born out of the tour Bible study. One of the friends that I spoke of as an important person is a fellow named Jim Hiskey, and he actually began the tour Bible study some 60 or so years ago, and he dedicated his life. Fine player, went to the University of Houston. He could have no doubt been a very successful tour player, but he got involved in ministry, gave his life to the Lord, and said, I'm gonna be a disciple of yours. And he's traveled all over this world, and that's part of my story. I've been able to kind of dovetail and fall in behind him. For 60 years, he's traveled around the world, the likes of China, Mongolia. I went to Mongolia with him, by the way. Japan, Argentina, all places in Europe. But he's invested his life in relationships. One of the things we're going to be able to take with us, relationships. But the blessing of being able to follow him around has been extra special because, and using the platform of golf, as I mentioned. But that's.
All right, we got a question right here.
Hi, I'm Mike Wilson. I was wondering, who is the best player you played against and beat?
Thank you, Mike. I'd have to qualify and say they beat me a lot more than I beat them, I promise you. But I'm glad you asked that question because I was playing in the Byron Nelson tournament, Dallas, Texas, at Preston Trail. Many. I was a rookie, and on the weekend I got paired with Jack Nicklaus. Wow. Saturday, he was going good. Remind me to come back to that thought. But I lived in Texarkana at the time. I was growing up in Texarkana, and had about half the population of Texarkana came down to the Byron Nelson to watch me.
Oh boy!
And so, man, the heat's on. Playing with Nicklaus. All my friends are there, family, everybody that I ever knew is there watching me.
You're not nervous, are you?
Well, kind of part of the story. I'll never forget. One of my friends walks up to me and said, "Are you nervous? I can't believe you're playing with Jack Nicklaus." And I can remember that this is how an athlete, a competitor, is strung up. But I looked him right in the eyes and said, "I can't wait to show him how good I am."
Awesome.
And Dr. David Cook, I know you said you were
with him last week.
He speaks a lot about that, but that's not to say in an arrogant, cocky way, although I was very arrogant and very cocky, but that truly was a heartfelt, and it really was kind of validating or affirming to me that maybe I got a little stuff down there, if that's my case. And I wanted to show him, man, but he beat me by about 7 shots that day. But that was okay.
I do know that you beat Bernard Langer by 4 strokes in the
Yep.
British Open that you won.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually won it going away.
Well,
Which-
yeah, there's no such thing as going away.
Yeah, I know.
You can never win by too many. But yeah, it was my turn. And of course, Bernard Langer, those of you that followed golf, one of the most amazing golf stories that he is still playing at such a high level. But that one time I got him, thankful that happened. I had my day.
All right, here you go.
Got a question for you. I saw you here when you first spoke, and it was really good, really impactful. And I remember you talking very much about becoming a golf pro at a club, and that really not being something that you wanted to do.
Well,
but that was the Lord's path for you. And I guess there's some humility there, and I'd love to hear you just expand
Well, I
on that a little
appreciate
bit.
so much that question because I walk away from a speaking engagement like this every single time. And I get in the car and, oh my gosh, I wish I had said this. Especially if you don't read and you don't go off of notes, you just spiel out your story. But what the gentleman brought up was about as important an aspect of my halftime and then beyond halftime, because God took an arrogant, a prideful, at some point a very successful tour player, major winner, and the unlikeliest spot that a tour player would ever want to find themselves is a director of golf or a club professional at a country club. I'm coming from the mountaintop to whatever you want. But with all due respect, that was part of the beginning of my humbling that God kind of anointed and laid out right in front of me. He knew that I needed to be humbled. And now to go from a profession of serving 1 to serving 1,000, that's a humbling process, I can promise you.
Yeah.
Absolutely the best 9 or 10 years. But it was very meaningful. I loved every minute of it. I found out that I actually love service. I love serving people. And I had no qualifications to be a director of golf. There's a lot to it. Many hats a golf professional wears. And as a psychiatrist, from a marriage counselor, everything in between. Occasionally you get to some golf stuff, but there's a lot of stuff going on in a country club at a director of golf. But I would tell you that I can't imagine a more perfect place for me to have landed and gained an enormous amount of humility. And not only that, met some of the most wonderful people that to this day are very, very good friends and very meaningful people that I met along the way. So thank you for that question.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for being here. I'm Alan Albers, and I want your opinion on, you got into the tour. Do you think kids nowadays, is it harder or easier for them to launch into the tour?
Yeah. That's a great question. I'd revert back to, it was at Mike's question first. I really believe, I was so fortunate, I'm just a few years into 70s, but my years were 1975 to 1988. That was kind of what it was the golden years. I played with all the great players that, even you that aren't golfers, you would know all the people that I played with, from Nicholas Palmer, player, got to Byron Nelson. He wasn't still competing. Sam Snead was. But I got to touch all the people, almost, a large group of people that actually developed up the professional game. And then the people I competed with, people I went to school with, the Crenshaws, the Litskys, the Kites, the Irwins, the Johnny Millers, a lot of the backbone of the tour. But of course, it certainly had gone away when Tiger entered the picture. But as an assistant captain to Ben Crenshaw at the Ryder Cup matches in 1999, I had the good fortune of meeting all the new young players, Mickelson and Tiger and Duval and that whole group. So I got kind of a little fast forward look at the new group. But I played in, I think, the best era. To answer your questions, I don't know that you can determine easier or whatever. I know that they are trained up better. I know that the game is still the game, and golf is still, about low score and about a result. Shouldn't define you. Your performance and the opinions of others should not define you, as it did me. That was my identity. But as a youngster playing the game, you're dialed in totally to that result and what everybody else might think of you. So they're trained up better to handle pressure, to embrace adversity. Golf coaches, golf teachers, instructors, everything's been ramped up to a high degree, and the table was set for this new day, and they're certainly taking advantage of it.
Anybody else? Okay, read.
Pardon me? Well, that's a good one. My
He
life.
said his favorite scripture in the Bible.
I don't know that I'd say it's my favorite, but I kind of would attach it to my life story. In Luke chapter 12, verse 48, to whom much is given, to whom much is entrusted, much is required. That kind of seems to, in the kingdom realm, that seems to always resonate with me, especially, we're gifted with so much, the abundant life and just so much opportunity to serve. And I think that's God's entrusting us with a lot. And to Him, we need to honor and glorify Him in all we do. And that verse really resonates with me. Yeah. I love Psalm 16:8 too. I'll set the Lord before me continually, and because He's at my right hand, I will not be shaken. I love that. I saw that one on one of my players at UTSA on his head cover. He didn't have Psalm there. He had 16:8. I said, "What's that?" And he quoted 16:8 for me. I loved it. Golly.
Wow. Wow.
He was.
One you've had an influence on, I suspect.
Yeah. He's a
Bill,
good-
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being
Yep.
here tonight.